There are a couple of ways in which we can interact with the planning information on Nimbus Maps Elite. The first is through the filter section on the left hand side here. So the sort of third row down here we have the display planning button. So if we just toggle that on, what that will do is that will display planning applications from within the last 3 years. That's set by default. What we could do if we wanted to is change that to maybe the last 6 years if we wanted to play around with that. When we click update, what that will then do is it will display those applications on the map for us. So edged in yellow, the planning applications that are linked back to a particular title, and then on each postcode there's a sort of a postcode marker pin, and that shows you the history in that postcode of all planning applications in that postcode within that period in effect. So there's your outline properties edged in yellow, and then your postcode marker pins showing you the planning applications on that postcode rather. When we click on the title, what we can then see is that information panel on the left hand side as always, and as we scroll down, what you'll see with those yellow outlined properties is this planning history plus button, where we can click on that and then see down through on the left hand side the history on that particular title of the planning applications that have been submitted. In this particular case, the one I'm interested in is this very bottom one, and what that is then showing me sort of the link here is dropping me straight into the council's website onto that particular planning application. The reason I'm interested in this is it's got a demolition of existing buildings and erection of 2 bungalows and 6 semi-detached houses, and I'm then interested in that as a sort of PD rights scheme to understand kind of what I can do in Rushcliffe as a council around that change of use of small industrial buildings into residential, obviously. So with the link here straight through to the council, obviously I've got the details of the application, the documents that sit behind it. And on that page, what I can then see is kind of correspondence around the application, but things like decision notices, so I can see what conditions were applied to the planning application, or the permission rather, when it came through. I can see kind of the consultee and the kind of the neighbouring, the locals, kind of how they reacted to that application when it came in, and the plans, and maybe how they changed through the process. So I can get a really good feel for how an application that I might be putting in on a similar scheme may well go through in the planning process, and kind of what hurdles I might hit as I go through that process. The second thing I can do is I can interact with the planning data through the exports function on the right hand side. So if I click on that exports and then click on the export by criteria planning button, what I can then do is I can search for the particular council, which in this case is Rushcliffe, as I said. So I can then type in Rushcliffe here, and press return to select it and highlight it in blue, and then from there I can then start to search that council for different keywords. So in this case I'm interested in residential applications, and I'm also interested in things that have got the word, say, flats in it. I want plural, I want to see where there's more than one, I want to see houses, I want to see bungalows, I want to see dwellings, so all those kind of words that you'd see typically on a planning application. What I could also do is I could type in Nottingham into there if I wanted to as well, and I could then search in other councils. So I can search for 3 councils at any one time for these words. Obviously I could put things like office into there, so I could then start to bring back all the planning applications that have got the word office or residential in. I can then use Excel here, so it drops it into Excel for me, and I can then use Excel to go and filter that and show me the interesting stuff that I'm particularly interested in. If I just extend this out a little bit, what I can see in this export then down here is then the link to the relevant planning application that's come through on the export. I can see the reference number. I can then see next the proposal, so I can then see what the planning application is all about. If I just nudge this down as well, I can just see sort of the full details of that. I can see the fact in this case it's pending, and I can see the date that it came through, and then obviously the address of that particular application. So all this is very simple. What I can then do though is I can then start to play around with this. So this has given me the last 250, so what I can then do in here is I can perhaps do a search for maybe stuff that I'm really interested in. So maybe in here I want to say something like office. So can I see some change of uses of offices to residential, and how did that go through? Maybe I'm interested in something that's, maybe I'm interested in, say, demolition. So where are these kind of applications that are going to give me sort of a knockdown of something and then a rebuild of something bigger in essence. So I can use all those things in there and sort of see kind of the applications from that list that I'm kind of interested in. But I can also then search by the address. So in our case over here, we were looking along, say, North Road or something like that. So on that right hand side here, so in the address filter there, if I click on that and type into this search here, North Road, what I'll then see is those planning applications within that time period that I've been looking at, and how those applications have progressed in the same way as I did on that left hand side panel in essence. So I can use this in a number of ways. You know, maybe on that search I might want to use the word C3 because that's kind of residential. But again, if I'm searching in different uses, so I'm looking for supermarkets, I could perhaps do supermarket A1, food, and that sort of stuff, which would then bring me through those planning applications. If I was searching for particular applications, I could use that address filter if I wanted to. Obviously, the postcode would be shown on the marker would be shown on the postcode as well. So I may want to pick it out through that and go and see the application there in essence. But all kind of very quick and easy ways of interacting with that map through Nimbus Maps Elite. One of the final things that I would use the planning application search for, if I was doing due diligence on the site, would be in terms of that export function. I would also use the words, things like some of the tricks we found from some of the strategic land buyers we've been talking to them, is searches for things like EIA or environmental impact assessment, because what that will bring back is planning applications with those big these big applications that are being submitted, and before the strategic land guys submit those big applications, they submit an environmental impact assessment to the council. So EIA or environmental impact assessment, that will bring back any large applications that are being submitted. So if I'm going to build 10 bungalows out, or 2 bungalows and 6 semi-detached houses, I want to know that there's not 500 houses coming onto the edge of the settlement nearby that's going to compete with me and drive my land value, my prices down. All very quick and simple through Nimbus Maps Elite.